All right, guys, let's practice or let's go over the practice for the types of bias. Okay, so this was actually a quiz, a formatted quiz, but it was just a regular practice in Canvas. Okay, so let's go through those. I think you got them in a different order than I did, but this is a hard copy of what the questions were. Okay. So here, with this one here, given humanity's great tradition of exploration, do you favor continued funding? Well, so that's going to be people's response will be affected by that because of the question wording. Now, let's talk about this because some people are wondering about this overestimate or underestimate. That's going to make people want to send in money. So this will probably the results from this will be an overestimate of probably the true proportion of people who would, favor or give funding or favor funding for the space flights. Okay. So overestimate is going to lead more people to say, oh, yeah, I want to support that. So that'll be an overestimate of probably what reality is. Do you think high school students should wear uniforms? That seems pretty straightforward. Should companies who pollute the environment pay for the cost of cleanup? I think that's pretty straightforward. It doesn't seem to have any type of leading opinion associated with it. All right, how about this one? Given that 18-year-olds are old enough to vote and serve in the military, they could die for your country. Is it fair that the drinking age is set at 21? Okay, see, so that one's got some information that's probably leading people to go, no, that is not fair that the drinking age is 21. It should be 18 because they can die for our country. Okay, so if we were talking overestimate or underestimate, this is probably going to underestimate the proportion of people who think drinking at 21 is fair. Okay, because people are going to say no, they're more likely to say no, that's not fair. Okay, so anyway, we'll get to some more of those. All right, here was generally good or poor methods. Taking a census of something that is a large population, very difficult. It's really poor. It's going to take a lot of money, a lot of time. You may probably not be accurate. Okay, any of the ones that employ randomness are generally good sampling methods. Stratified, um, systematic, and clustering and simple random. Judgment, no, you're picking in your best judgment. So even if you don't try to be biased, you could. Convenience, it's what's convenient. You could leave out a portion of the population. And then voluntary response, those people that feel passionate are going to put themselves into the sample. And so that's not generally a good way to do um, sampling. Okay. Oh, this is an interesting one. I love this one. So what's happening is you're asking every 10th person in line. So that sounds like systematic. Okay. Because I like it whenever they say every 10th, every 20th or whatever, because I'm like, oh, that's systematic. But look at what's happening. It asked about a bias. So would there be a bias happening here? Well, let's see. They're asking, do you mind standing in line for a really, really long time, for like up to 3 hours for just a 2-minute ride? Okay. So they're asking people who are already in that line. See, that's the problem. So they're asking people who already are showing that it is worth their while to wait in that line and that they're willing to do that. All the other people who say, heck no, I'm not going to wait in that line. They're out doing other things in the park. They're not waiting in that line. So that was what happened here. So we had just a portion of the population. It was convenient to pick those people. And so under coverage, those ones who are already saying they want to wait are the ones who are going to be represented. All right. So, okay, I had this one wrong. I had written it wrong. I guess I didn't click the right answer whenever I made the quiz. So if you went back and then fixed it and you were confused as to why, the answer I had incorrectly written in there was that this one was correct, but that's not. Someone had pointed this out to me. The interviewing could lend itself to response bias. So truly, the best method with the least possible bias is randomly selecting those 300 students. So randomly selecting them from the student body. So it seems out of all of them, they're randomly selecting. So that one is good. You just want to make sure that you're not having bias with the survey. All right. So here we're kind of matching the sampling method and then the typical type of bias that results. If it's convenient, you typically are just getting one type of people. That's undercoverage. Face-to-face interview, you have to watch out for response bias. Voluntary response sampling, voluntary response bias. Census of a large population, that could be very difficult to get a whole lot of people and have them respond, so non-response bias. All right, and these were just definitions. Part of the population has a reduced chance of being in there as undercoverage. Individuals chosen for the sample who data cannot be obtained, okay, or they refuse to respond. That's straight up definition. The gathering instrument, there's a type of bias in this, the question wording, lack of privacy. That's the kinds of response bias. And when the sample is comprised entirely of volunteers or people who selected themselves to be in the sample, sometimes this is called selection bias, selected themselves to be in the sample. All right. So here is the overestimate and underestimate problem. Okay, so you might be really interested in this one because we didn't talk about this one much in the notes, and yet here I am throwing this at you. Okay, it's important for you to kind of understand what's going on here. So let's take a look. All right. So first I define parameter. Parameter is like what is actual in the whole population. Okay, and so we may not really actually know what that number is. Okay, but these examples have a type of bias that I'm asking you, are they going to make people more likely to do something or less likely to do something than probably what the real population is doing? Okay? So here, given humanity's great tradition of exploration, do you favor continued funding? Would this sample result give an overestimate or underestimate of the actual proportion of people who are in favor of continuing the funding? Well, given America's great tradition, okay, more people, it's going to overestimate the proportion of people that probably really think funding should continue. Okay? All right. Adolescence is a time when we want them to freely express themselves. Do you think high school students, should be forced to wear uniforms? And people are going to go, no, heck no, I don't think so. So, would this question overestimate or underestimate the actual proportion of people who think high school students should wear uniforms? If it was asked in a simpler manner, then people might be more likely to say, sure, but because it's going to take away their ability to express themselves and they'll be forced to wear uniforms. No, I do not want them to wear uniforms. So this will be an underestimate of the proportion of people who think they should wear uniforms. Okay? All right. Given that 18-year-olds are old enough to serve in the military, that should we, how does this overestimate or underestimate the actual proportion of the population who think it is fair to set the drinking age? This is going to make people, I think, do I have this one wrong? Well, okay, no, I think I got it. Because it's hard. I got to keep these things straight. So people are going to say, no, I do not think it is fair to set the drinking age at 21. Okay. People are going to be more inclined to say, no, I don't think it is fair. So you're going to get a whole lot less people thinking it is fair to set the drinking age at 21. So that's going to underestimate the true proportion that's happening because people are more inclined to say, no, it is not fair. Okay. All right, so this one is sometimes companies may be unknowingly polluting the area where they are manufacturing their product. They're unknowingly. Okay, do you think if they're just unknowingly doing it, They're not trying to do bad. Do you think that the companies who pollute the environment should be forced to pay for the entire cost of the cleanup? Okay, a lot of people probably would say yes. However, because of the wording here that says they unknowingly pollute the area, so you know I'm going to feel sympathetic for them. So I think people are going to say, no, I don't want them to have to pay for the whole cleanup. Poor them. They didn't mean to do it. Okay. So, would this be overestimated or understated? The actual proportion of people who think companies who pollute the environment should pay for the entire cost of the cleanup. So I think less people will say, yes, they need to pay. Okay, so it will be an underestimate of that. All right, I hope that makes sense. Those are tough for me. I have got to really think specifically, what's it talking about? What parameter is it talking about? The actual proportion of people who are in favor of continued. So I've got to get a clear understanding of what the question is about the population. All right, I hope that helped.
Good morning.